Chris Coons got a incomplete.
Yes.
Which means he does not support the carve-out?
The carve-out, as of right now. So we're, again, everyone's, main thing is call him, reach out to him.
On your screen, excuse me for cutting you off, but on your screen right now is Chris Coons' phone number to his office. I want everybody to flood his office with phone calls. The voter rights legislation matter. It matters. We will wind up being 20 years behind if we do not get this taken care of. I'm going to call him personally. I got his cell phone number, and I'm going to give him a call personally. Not that my one voice will change his mind, but if you all will call in, we got to get this voting rights stuff done right, and we don't have the liberty of time. Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
And welcome to The Source. Kobe, oftentimes we've come on the show and we've talked about various things that's happening in and around the city of Wilmington. And while there is still a whole lot happening in the city, we thank God that the murdering has really kind of like quelled down, and some of the vicious, violent crime has calmed down a teeny bit. But today I want to open up in our local news by talking about two of our former city council members.
Yes.
And it's really troubling because they have done such great work in the African-American community, and both of them find themselves in very difficult situations. So the first one I wanted to talk about was former city council president Theo Gregory.
Yes.
I'm told that as I read the reports that he was indicted, and then there was a trial and some other things happened.
So this has been a trial that had been going on for a while now, and it started under the previous city council administration, and it, Attorney General Kathleen Jennings pursued the case. So Theo, his term ended in 2016. Early 2017, we swore in a new president, a new council. He chose not to run for council president again because he was running for mayor. Not long after that swearing in, there was a transaction that took place where a $40,000 grant was given to a community organization, and that money, half of that money went to Theo personally for his fees, and that's what they saw as a conflict of interest. Right. So just the other day, during the trial, the jury found him guilty of public corruption misdemeanor, which means he faces up to a potential 1 year in prison and a fine of $2,300.
Okay.
Now, also, he was acquitted of the second count of official misconduct, and he was also acquitted of the profiteering misdemeanor in the trial. So no date has been set for sentencing yet, but again, this is a big concern for a lot of people, especially because it's taxpayer dollars being handled.
Right. Yeah, and I often say, we need to really, I guess in my language, because I'm a pastor, talk about praying for people and leadership. God has given such an awesome responsibility to represent people. And, while Theo Gregory certainly I've disagreed with him on many issues, he did good for his community, building the Moyer Academy. I'm not going to ever take that from him. He was able to build the Powell Center and do a couple other really wonderful things. Yeah. And quite natural, some of it was to help his finances as well. But the impact to the community was very powerful. And I just feel bad that we find ourselves having a great level of success, but ending in great failure, drama, and things of that nature.
Yeah, again, in those places that he helped built, especially the Powell Center, is a cornerstone in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So it's good things like that will last for a long time. But unfortunately, this will be a part of his legacy going forward.
Yeah, I just hope that for those of you who are aspiring to be, such as yourself, politicians, that we will remember the integrity.
Yes.
Because there's a different type of crime when you're black. White folks can do it and they get away with it, but when you're black, you have to make sure you live above approach so that you won't be found doing certain things. Or first of all, we should just live with integrity, and we should serve and represent our people. We see this even in the current city council, where we got some who are not even trying to help their communities, who are not trying to do anything other than to enlarge their own pocketbooks and stay in power. But I just feel very, very saddened that he found himself in such a predicament, and even again, I did not always agree with him. We've had many fights. But I just think at this point, I feel bad that his legacy has been tarnished to the level that it has been tarnished. And while some people may say, well, what happened? You laid it out very clearly. But at the end of the day, I just feel bad for him.
Right, yeah.
Well, what I wanted to do is I also want to turn from there, and I want to just spend a couple minutes talking now. I want to, for transparency's sake, I think it's important, Brother Kobe, that I share that I am a supporter and was a supporter and will always be a supporter of Senator Darius Brown. But I don't think we could have integrity if I allow things to happen with people I do care about and don't speak on it and speak truth. We have to always lay the truth out, even when we're not comfortable with it. Today I come to you uncomfortable because I am a strong supporter of Darius Brown. He has done so much in our community. He has brought in grants, and not to enrich himself. He has helped so many different communities, even Zion Fair with the paving. It's like he whatever he could do to support, he has done. But he finds himself in a very, very harsh spot now. And I know that you are on the Democratic committee, and I don't want you to ever compromise what you are allowed to say and do, but I'm in a position where we're going to have to report on this too. And this is just not good.
Yeah, so just to give a little more background about what is going on in this case. Now, the prior incident was set to go to trial December the 1st. But just a week and a half ago, there was another altercation where it was a lot of verbal abuse in the face of another General Assembly member, a state rep, Melissa Minor Brown. Now, this was done at a bill signing in front of the governor, in front of other elected officials, and they all spoke up on this and said it was very concerning. So from that, he has now been stripped from the bond committee. Now, the bond committee is, in my view, one of the top 3 most powerful committees down in Dover. It's a joint committee, so it's equal representation from the House side and from the Senate side. But the bond committee crafts the state's capital budget. So infrastructure projects, everything we're going to be dealing with right now, you talked about paving, all that comes from the bond committee. The money's allocated from JFC, the Joint Finance Committee, but it's divvied up in bond. You have projects like that, but then also with this infrastructure money coming in, the bond committee is going to be critical, especially for the black community. So he was removed from that. He was replaced by another African-American senator, Senator Marie Pickney from the Bear area. My
Bear,
Christina,
that's
that
my
area.
senator from where I live.
Yes. And again, the Senate Pro Temp of the Delaware State Senate, Dave Sokola, has called for Senator Brown to go to anger management and take steps needed to address so that there's no more outbursts like this. Now, this now is the second committee that Senator Brown has been removed from. He was the chair of the Judiciary Committee, which, one, we think of criminal justice reform and how big of an impact that's going to have on the Black community. But also the second part of that is the Judiciary Committee also gets oversight over any judge that Governor Carney is nominating to be on a bench here in Delaware. They go through the hearings through them, and then they decide to release it to the full body to vote on. So it's a two very strong and powerful, and honestly, between Joint Finance, Bond, and Judiciary, those are my three most powerful committees. And he served on two of them. He used to serve on two of them. He no longer does anymore.
And the sad reality is that's power. He's not a senior senator.
Right.
He's almost a freshman senator, have moved up the rank. My pastor often quoted the quote, "Don't let your gift take you to a place your character won't let you stay." And I'm always said it to all the young people that I mentor and I talk to. I just feel bad. I agree with the senator, the person whom you had referenced, saying that maybe he should get some anger management, because, again, I am very uncomfortable, but I got to be honest.
Right.
If this issue, because there's some reporting that, that there are women who are very afraid. If this is the reality, then we need to get some anger management. I disagree, and I'm going to be very honest with those of you who are watching me today. I disagree that he should resign. He is doing too much good work. He needs help.
Right.
So I hope that we can find some African American out there who is powerful enough to mentor him. I think this is Tony Allen, who over there at Delaware State have done so much, was able to come through the system. Somebody like that who has an influence, can have an influence over his life, because oftentimes when people are young and they are out there, and no disparity on young people, because you're doing a phenomenal job. You've kept your integrity in check, but mentorship matters. And in his case, I don't think he should just resign and we throw him away. I do think that he should get some anger management training and get this under control. People don't understand addictions, and I think this is not a session for counseling, but addictions come in different forms. It could be a power struggle. It could be an anger issue. And if you don't get it under control, it will destroy you. And I think this is what's happening. So I hope and trust that maybe he will take the advice and will be able to do this and rebound.
Yeah.
Because this is wrong. This is wrong, what has happened, and I do not condone violence of any sort.
I agree with you. And the next part of this is there has been an ethics committee called by Senator Lawson. He put in the request, which means now Senator Lockman, who's the other Wilmington senator, who is the whip, she's in charge of the ethics committee. They will do a full review of the case and then present their findings. As a party, as the Delaware Democratic Party, we fully support the ethics review portion of this, and also agree that we hope that he gets the help he needs.
Yeah, but what I would hope, Kobe, is that when the ethics review is done, that it is not done politically.
Correct.
That's going to be what I'm going to be watching for. I've watched other people go through issues and they were able to rebound. We're not going to destroy, and I'm not going to stand back and let anyone just destroy him, but I'm not going to defend wrongdoing.
Correct.
I have a daughter. I have a wife, I have a mother, and a sister. All of them are very dear to me. So I'm not going to allow him to be able to be disrespectful to women. If that is the case, and then all of a sudden I'm just going to say, well, it doesn't matter, he's a friend. No, because we have disagreed on many issues. We have fought back and forth about many issues. But I do watch what he's done, what he has done in his short time in this community. Our community is enriched because of him. But if there's an issue, it needs to be addressed.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you.
Okay, so we're gonna hope and trust that Brother Darius, and I don't know if he's watching or not. Don't let your anger overcome you. I don't think you should ever do that. But what you got to do is you have to get some help. And for those of you who are out there listening to me, maybe you're an older person who he have listened to in the past. Maybe you're a younger person that maybe you got his attention. Sit him down. That's what they used to do to us. I mean, I'm a different generation from you, but my generation, they set me down and said, boy, you're smelling yourself. And I think at this point, somebody needs to sit him down, and I don't have that kind of influence in his life. If I did, I would do it. I had it in a couple others, and it's very evident to people's lives I have an influence over, but somebody has to sit him down and say, you know what, this is inappropriate, and you need to get some help. And if you don't get some help, then we need to make sure we help remove you out of the spots that you are. So we're going to leave that there, and we'll be right back.
I'm getting vaccinated against COVID-19. Yes, there could be some short-term side effects from the vaccine, but they go away in a day or two. Those are signs that my body's building protection. It's worth it to avoid serious problems from COVID-19.
And we're back. Well, we move now to the national scene, and this week, President Biden finally got an opportunity to sign into law the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill that has been in the waiting. It's a bipartisan bill, and I'm very grateful, even though there are some Republicans who are attacking the Republicans that supported it. But it was a very good bill, and I'm just grateful to God that we got about $1.2 billion coming to Delaware.
Yes.
So what I want to do is let's just look at this signing real quick, and we'll be right back.
We focus on getting things done. I ran for president because the only way to move this country forward, in my view, was through compromise and consensus. That's how the system works. That's American democracy. And I'm going to be signing a law that is truly consequential because we made our democracy deliver for the American people. We compromised. We reached a consensus. That's necessary.
And that's wonderful that, we had the signing, now is in law and everything is looking good. But, I want for our viewers, let's get into the weeds a little bit to see what is it in it, that $1.2 billion for Delaware as we're moving forward.
Again, first off, the bill itself is the largest long-term investment in our infrastructure in nearly a century here in America. So that's huge. Now, the American Society of Civil Engineers rated our infrastructure here in Delaware a D, right? Yeah. So we have a lot of work to do. And it's funny because it's always, we make jokes, 141, 95 is always being worked on, but it seems as though they're never finishing those projects. But let's talk about what's coming in. So part of that is going to be going to rebuilding and repairing our roads, our bridges, focus on climate migration. And when you look at that, right, so Delaware has 19 bridges across the state. We have over 250 miles of road that needs to be repaired. That is a lot of work. And I think, by continuing to see the increase in the amount of people who are commuting to work, especially after this pandemic, you're going to see the roads deteriorate even faster again. Right. They got a little break there when we were all shut in, but we still have a lot to do. So we expect $1.2 billion in federal aid for highway programs to redevelop our highway programs, and $225 million for bridge repairs here in the state of Delaware, which is going to be huge. That's probably going to be done over the next 5 years. So we have the 95 project. That money's already here. So you're going to see increased funding in other other highways throughout Delaware.
And while we going there, while you collecting your thoughts, I just want to make sure that we understand that equates to new jobs, that equates to union jobs, that equates to more people being employed to work on these jobs and make good living for their families. So I just want to make sure you all know that as well.
Right, and another part of that is investing in more sustainable transportation for everyone, right? And public transportation. Joe is known as Amtrak Joe, right? Because he took the public train down to work. But here in Delaware, 87% of the time, if you're taking public transportation, you're taking a longer time to get to where you're going. And 3.7 times more people of color use public transportation here in Delaware than our white counterparts, right? So this is also an equity thing, right? But there's going to be $220 million over a five-year program to invest in public transportation and create better options for residents here in the first state to have. And then on top of that, as we're starting to move into a more climate-friendly green environment, they are looking to build electric vehicle chargers. Now, one of the reasons why a lot of people don't have these chargers is, like, if you live in the city of Wilmington or city of Dover, in cities, it's very hard to get the permission you need to have a charging port installed, especially if you don't have a garage, right? So now creating the opportunity for you to charge at any gas station or have charging lots throughout the state is going to be able to allow us to get electric vehicles, which is going to save us money in the long run. It's less repairs, and it's also less money on gas and reliance on gas. So it's across the board, across the entire nation, is $7.5 billion to build a national network of electric vehicles. And that's good because we like to travel as well, too. In Delaware, about 18 million of that is going to come to Delaware. Going deeper into this, one of the huge points that we saw during this pandemic was the lack of high-speed internet, especially when a lot of our children were doing learn from home. And they needed to be on Zoom for class or just get their, ebooks or Epic or all those different programs. President Biden wants to make sure through this bill that there's a greater investment in broadband access, so for rural communities in the state of Delaware, but for low-income individuals, making sure they have the proper access so that they can also get their work done in their schoolwork.
According to the data I've read, that 21%, it will be a 21% increase in people in Delaware who will become eligible for affordable connectivity and benefits from this program as well.
Yes.
So that's excellent.
Yes, and as of right now, 11% of Delawareans have zero internet access in their house. And the ones that do have very limited, that are in the nets, like 10% of that. And then also 1 in 5 Delawareans fall under that, or 1 in 50 Delawareans fall under that umbrella who will be supported. So this is a huge step in taking steps to address the equity gap and the educational gap that we saw.
Great.
So going deeper and deeper, they're also looking to invest in aviation programs, which, again, Delaware State has, I think, the best in the nation.
21 planes.
So the best aviation program in the entire nation. That's going to be huge for Delaware. That's going to be huge for Delaware's workforce and people who want to come into Delaware to get a good education at Del State through that program. They're also going to have more ability to get jobs going out of it.
Excellent.
So across the board, that is going to be huge. And then lastly, one of the things I want to talk about, everyone's heard about the Flint water crisis.
Yes.
But what they haven't heard about is the water crisis we have right here in Delaware. We have, and it depends where we're at, whether it's old pipes or if it's these big factories leaking all type of waste into our drinking water down in Sussex. investing in clean drinking water and eliminating the nation's lead line pipes.
That's huge.
Is going to be a huge thing, and Delaware is going to be right there, a part of it. We're receiving $355 million to work on those projects.
Now that is huge, because all too often we see, especially when I lived in Dover, you would see the brown water.
Yep.
And here down in Wilmington, you see it sometime too. So this replacing of these pipes, it may appear that the state is going to start getting turned upside down while we're getting this infrastructure done. But for the long run, for our children, our children's children, it's going to be a better place. Hats off to Joe Biden for this.
Yes.
And I'm very glad that the Democratic Congress have certainly decided to let's move this thing forward. This is a huge undertaking.
Yes.
But I'm sure people are going to benefit greatly.
And hats off to our senior Senator Tom Carper, who is the chair of the Senate Environment Public Works Committee, who had a huge role in helping draft this and where the money will be going for this. So thank him for this as well too, and Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester, who's on the Energy and Commerce Committee over in the House.
Yes, and before we go on this one area of the national news, I just want to throw up something that you may not be able to speak on, because you do serve as a Democratic officer for the committee. But we have to. It looks like the Senate and Congress may turn Republican, given all of the things that are going that did not happen. People who are stubborn. I want everything that I say I want, and it took so long to get the infrastructure grant out. I shouldn't say grant, but money out. And now we're at a point where the Republicans can't wait to get in charge anymore, and they're going to have a lot of vendettas that's going to happen. This whole filibuster, I'm really concerned about it. I've heard through the grapevine that there are some senators who just won't let go. We always blame Manchin and Sinema.
Yes.
Those are the two that we use as the model, but there's a few others that we're hearing, and we may want to even talk. He's a personal friend of mine. I'm going to give Chris a call too. We may need the D.C. statehood needs to come into play.
Yes.
Also, some other things needs to be voted on so that we will be able to do what we have to do as a people moving forward. But the biggest thing that has to happen is a voters' right bill.
Yes, and I agree with you on that. And just, to talk about the filibuster real quick, some of the major legislation that is being held up, it was the infrastructure bill, but they were able to break the filibuster for that. But it's holding up the Build Back Better Act. It's holding up voting right legislation. It's holding up D.C. statehood. It's holding up the PRO Act, which is about workers' rights and strong unions and livable wages. It's holding up a lot of solid everyday American benefiting legislation, right? It seems as though when it comes to legislation that's going to benefit big corporations, the banks, bailouts and stuff like that, that is fine. They do that very fast. But when it's the everyday American who's living paycheck to paycheck, that's when, oh, wait, let's talk through this more. I'm not really on board with this, right? If you can bail out big corporations that mismanage their money already, and then you give them more money, that's not right.
No.
But when you say the struggling everyday American who is being taxed like crazy, while you have big corporations like Amazon not being taxed, that's concerning to me. So there's a lot going on here. But if you do break the filibuster, right? If you break the filibuster, you have to have the courage to pass the legislation. Because then there's nothing else you can hide behind.
Right. Absolutely. We're going to be watching this, and we may have to do some special stuff to make sure that at least our senators are doing what we need them to do.
Yes.
And we will be getting back to you. We'll be right back. And we're back. We're going to now turn our attention to the Silent Storm segment of our show. We promised you that we were not going to be emotional. We said we would take our time, and we're going to continue to throw out facts as we move forward. We are not represented the way we should be. We have people in city council who may look like us, but not representing us. We have a mayor's office that is reflective of the community that it serves, but the mentality does not fit with it. So what I wanted to do, as I shared with you all last week, is that we were going to give a report card. We're going to give a report card for every council person, as well as the mayor and his administration. And today we start with the mayor's report card. It's going to take a few weeks because he has a awesome responsibility for the city of Wilmington. So today we're going to talk about one aspect of the 3 areas that we will use as a guide to give him a report card. We're going to talk about his promises for a safer community, for an equal community, and for a better community. We're going to cover various topics in that area just to give you an idea. So regardless of our grade, you can say, based on the facts, their grade does line up. We did not come into this with a preconceived notion. We're looking at data as we are looking at that. So Colby, today we're going to start, and most of our data is coming from Neighborhood Scout. So for those of you who may want to know where are we getting our data from, please note that's where a lot of it is coming from, if not all of it, at this time. Colby, I was shocked and mesmerized to find out that they started off by talking about the crime index, because that's the area we're going to evaluate first, the whole safer community. But under that is the crime.
Right.
Next week, we're going to come back and do policing. Then we'll give a grade. I was shocked to know that out of 100, Delaware is considered 1 for the safest city to live in.
Right.
Unacceptable.
Right. And being 1 is not good. It means that we're safer than just 1% of all cities in America. That is a horrible rating to have. And I don't care what the mayor's office puts out about this being, the up and coming best small town to live in. It's because they're only focusing in on the downtown and the riverfront when they're putting out statements like that.
Absolutely.
Throughout the rest of the city of Wilmington, people are struggling. People are struggling with high crime rates, and this has to be addressed. And again, you've said it, I've said it. Where is the plan? Where is the strategy around this? And you have to open your eyes. You're not going to fix this problem by over-policing a community. You have to do it by community empowerment, right? So how are we building up our communities to make sure they're sustainable? And then how are you working with the public safety aspect of it as well, too? And the key note of that is the public. You have to have their input in on that as well, too.
And the public is not just a few puppies that you may have around you that will support everything you say, but will share truth and speak truth to power.
Right.
I wanted to say it that way because all too often what we're noticing is that those who agree with the mayor's agenda, they're the ones who get the ear and the attention, but those who disagree are shunned and pushed to the side. Right. Unacceptable. But we're not going to get our personal opinion in it too much at this point. Let me move past us being number 1 out of 100 cities. We are not the first, meaning the most safe. We are almost the worst city to live in. Then it moves and it talks about, the report talks about violence, property, and it gives a total overall as it relates to the crime. Inside of it, it speaks of various things. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go through a couple of them. And you'll see some of this stuff on your screen as well. The crime rate in Wilmington is 15.88% per 1,000. This is what we were based on. The national is 4.23%. That's a little bit more than 3 times as high as the national.
I know, and it's a shame. It's a shame. And this is, under Mayor Williams, this is why we were deemed Murder Town USA, because of our violent crime rate per 1,000. But now, like you've said before, and one of the reasons why we wanted to do this portion of the show is because the narrative has changed. No one is actually talking about what is truly going on. And I think, you can't dispute the data.
That's
The numbers are there, the percentages are there. That is what it is right now, and it's way too high.
Then we move to property. Since we're the safest and we're on the rise and we're on the great comeback, property crime, the crime under the area of property, 52.59% for the city of Wilmington. On the national level, it is 22.52%, which means we're double. First we were triple. Now we're even double with just property crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're the best city to live in.
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. I love this city, but we have some issues that need to be addressed, and this is what people have been talking about. You can go to any civic association, any neighborhood planning council, in the areas that the mayor didn't do well in, and you hear them talking about these issues.
Well, now, Kobe, we're supposed to be nice.
Yes.
You said you go into areas that he did not win.
Yes.
He only won one area.
Exactly.
And his area is flourishing and doing well.
Yes, it is.
But you said go into any, that means you go to the whole city. Excuse me for being facetious.
Yes.
But that's, okay, we'll move on. We'll move on. Property crime comparison per 1,000. As I'm looking at this data, you'll see it on your screen. Wilmington, as we said, 52.59%. In the state of Delaware, in the state of Delaware, it's only 22.52. This is the problem I'm running into. Again, we have doubled even what the state that we're in. Why isn't the governor or someone else, as they did with Dennis, saying, look, we're going to take over your city? Why isn't that happening?
So from the governor's standpoint, this is no longer, you can no longer just isolate it to Wilmington. I know we're talking about Wilmington right now, but in his mind, he's probably thinking this is spiking all across the state. So that same logic that Markell and them had isn't going to work with this.
Well, I do agree across the country we have a spike in crime.
Yeah.
But I don't agree that we don't have a plan for how we're going to address it. We don't know if a plan will work until we execute a plan. So for the governor to not have a demand that the city, whether it be Newcastle, whether it be Wilmington, whatever city it is, not produce a plan, then I think it's counterproductive.
Right, and we have this current governor now, Governor John Carney, that served, and our other co-host, Jay Street, has brought this up about the plan that he worked on, the Hope Commission plan, that addresses gun violence and just violence overall here in the city of Wilmington. The people you had who were a part of that plan, at the time, John Carney, he wasn't governor, but he was a part of that. State Rep Nnamdi Chukwuka, he is now has the power in the Senate or in the House to advocate for this to be a fully funded plan. You had Mike Pizicki when he was still with the Riverfront Development Corp. He was on this team that put together this plan. These people are now empowered.
Right.
They use this to get empowered, to talk to the community, say, this is how we're going to get things done. What are they doing to actually push for that? I know it's been a few years, and with any plan that has been a few years, you need to dust it off. You need to update it to today's times, today's numbers, but you have a foundation to start with. And if this was so strong that people believed in and helped you get elected, why aren't you still advocating for it?
Because we are quick to forget once we get the power. Power makes some people drunk. And it creates other kinds of problems. A sober mind is not there. You said something that was very keen and very clear, and that is people used it to propel them into positions. But now that they're in positions, they act like what are you talking about? What is going on?
Right.
There is no way in the world I could be in my own personal house and say to my wife, I don't know how we're going to pay the electric, I don't know how we're going to pay the gas, and then everything is getting cut off. You need to come up with a plan on how we're going to sustain our lives. If you are the mayor, again, we're not going to be too personal with this, but if you are the mayor, the mayor has to be able to say, this is my plan. Now, listen, if the plan that we have, or he has, fails, no one will say, you know what, your plan didn't work, so you're a bad mayor. You put together a solid plan, and then we see it work, or if it doesn't work, it doesn't, we go back to the drawing board.
Right.
To have no plan is to say, I could care less. I will serve my time, and I will be gone.
Mm-hmm.
This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable. But, you know, we got one more aspect of this whole thing. I think that was everything on the property, and we did the regular national one too. So what I wanted to do is wait until next week. It doesn't look good.
Right.
Just with the first part of the safer community.
Mm-hmm.
Safer community deals with the crime. It deals with policing. We're going to deal with policing next week. We're going to look at some of the data. We're going to look at some of the stuff that's going on with the police officers, who we got around and what's happening. And that is not looking too good. The trajectory doesn't look like it's going to be too good. But the point is, the crime is out of control.
Yeah.
We don't have a safer community. This is second term. This is not the first term. Or is it the first term? I don't know. Is this his first term?
It's his second term. He's about to go into his 7th year.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Or his 6th year.
I just want to make sure. I'm asking you this before the people, because if it was his first year, like Biden's first year,
right,
then we got to have a little bit of grace.
Right.
But crime has constantly gone up every year he's been the mayor. He was supposed to be the great hope. I'm going to come in and save you from the black guy whom y'all trusted. Where is the results?
Yep.
Where is the results, Wilmington? Where are the results? Where is the plan? And I'm going to keep asking. You don't have to like me. It's not about me. It's about my people. We need a plan. And listen, if we don't have a plan, every avenue will take us to the land of failure. That's what I believe. So the first part of this report card, and we have several weeks of just the mayor's office, just the mayor, is dealing with a promise he made. We will have safer communities. 2 areas we will look at. Not the riverfront only, because if you put that in the whole equation, it still fails. First is crime, then it's policing. Is the mayor, this is a fundamental question, doing what he promised he would do? He said also he would be the mayor for all people, but we realize it's only the 8th district he's the mayor for. But
right.
but a portion of the fourth, a portion. So in saying that, Mr. Mayor, your people, y'all watching, what's going on with the crime? What is your plan? What is your strategic plan? What is your strategy to bring crime down in the city of Wilmington? Anything else you'd like to share on that?
No, I think you hit the nail right on the head.
Next week, we're coming back, and we're going to finish up Safer Community Plan, the Safer Community promise that he made to our city. We'll be right back.
With Thanksgiving, I gotta give you thanks for everything you've done for me, everything you are to me, yeah, everything you've given me. I gotta give you thanks.
Zion Church family, for the first time ever, I want to call you together as we celebrate Thanksgiving on November the 25th. I'm asking for all of you to come out and let's have a 1 hour of power service, thanking and praising God for all that He has done for us. He's gotten us through COVID. He's gotten us through everything that life has thrown at us. Can we come together on November the 25th at 11 a.m. as we worship the Lord and serve Him in fullness? The Jones family have agreed to offer up the music while I will take care of the short, brief message. This is a time to give thanks. Join me here at Zion Fair, November the 25th at 11 a.m. as we worship God together.
Grateful heart, Lord, I gotta give you thanks.
And we're back. Well, we're at my favorite part of the show. We reported on the news and the local and everything else, but this is the part I enjoy so much, getting an opportunity to hear what's happening in Kobe's brain for the week. So what's going on with Kobe's Corner?
Yes. So on Wednesday, 150 people were arrested outside the White House, calling for President Biden and Democrats to end the filibuster, create a carve-out at least, and pass voting rights. You had leaders of organizations, the Poor People's Campaign, Reverend Dr. Barber, People for American Way, Ben Jealous, who's also the former NAACP president, who did amazing work there. You had the CEO of League of Women Voters, who, this was their first major action, this series of action over this last month, since the President Woodrow Wilson was in office. That's how important this is to people across the nation. You had people there from all 50 states. Everyone is standing up and saying, look, what is happening on the state level right now is why we need federal action for protections. Right. Over 400 pieces of legislation has been filed in general assemblies across this nation to restrict and oppress our right to vote, especially minorities. But this isn't just a minority issue. One of the biggest fears, and Dr. King talked about this, one of the biggest fears of people in power were that minorities and poor white people and people from every religion would unite, and that's exactly what we did. We had a leadership meeting inside the National Judaism Reform Organization's office, and in that office there's a plaque up there, and that's where the original Voting Rights Act was drafted, in that office. And we are working on provisions to get even more senators on board with this legislation. But also the week before this, the NAACP, NAN, the Urban League, the National Council of Black Women, released a report card calling on U.S. senators and letting them know where we believe they stand on voting rights. And it was 4 aspects of that. Do you support the freedom to vote, D.C. statehood, and the John Lewis Voter Advancement Act? And then the last portion is what really determines your grade. Do you support a carve-out for voting rights of the filibuster to get this done? So senators who got an A support all 4 measures. Senators who got an incomplete means because every Democratic senator supports all the voting pieces of legislation, the last portion was they don't support the carve-out for the filibuster. Oh, wow. So here in Delaware, we have 1 senator get an A and 1 senator get an incomplete. Senator Carper got an A. And then the last grade was F, and F means you don't support the carve-out and you don't support the voter rights legislation. So we are in a huge fight right now. We only have a few more months to get this done. Right. Or 2022 is going to look pretty bad for a lot of people. But
I know you have to be careful what you say, and don't ever let me compromise what you can do. But I brought up in one of the previous segments dealing with, one of my friends who is a senator, Senator Chris Coons. I heard you say that Tom Carper, who is a friend of mine as well, that he got an A, but Chris Coons got a incomplete. Yes. Which means he does not support the carve-out?
The carve-out, as of right now. So we're, again, everyone's, main thing is call him, reach out to him.
On your screen, excuse me for cutting you off, but on your screen right now is Chris Coons' phone number to his office. I want everybody to flood his office with phone calls. The voter rights legislation matter. It matters. We will wind up being 20 years behind if we do not get this taken care of. I'm going to call him personally. I got his cell phone number, and I'm going to give him a call personally. Not that my one voice will change his mind, but if you all will call in, we got to get this voting rights stuff done right, and we don't have the liberty of time. How dare a person who support black people, people of color, how dare them not want to carve out? All right, keep your filibuster. You carved it out for the Supreme Court. Right. How dare?
Yeah, and this is going to be huge. This is going to be huge. And where we're at with things right now, we're thankful that Senator Coons is on board with the voting right legislation. We just need to carve out provision.
There's no way you can be on board with the legislation. This is me talking, not you. There is no way, and I'll say this to him, you can be on board with the with the legislation of voters' rights and not with carving out, given we don't have the votes in the Senate.
Right.
I don't believe that lie. I was born at night, but not last night. Okay?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. But yeah, so that's where things are. People are going to keep pushing. And, we've talked about this before. If President Biden wants to continue to push his agenda, he's going to need the Congress, he's going to need the House, and that means people are going to need the freedom to vote. Because when the American people are able to vote, that's when you see things get done. And we look at different laws, and I know we've talked about Georgia's voting rights laws that it recently changed, but a provision that's in there is any faith leader who tries to do polls to the soul, which is...
Souls to the polls.
Souls to the polls, yes. I'm sorry. Souls to the poll, which means after church, y'all all go over and vote. You're not saying vote for a Democrat, Republican. You're just saying go vote.
Right.
If y'all do that, you will be liable to be arrested.
And that's that's why we got to do the national.
Right.
Because Georgia has really made it impossible to win.
Exactly.
There. It has to go back to being a red state.
Yep.
Ruby red.
Some of the other things I wanted to talk about today was the Treasury Department. They have the American Rescue Act reauthorized the 2010 Jobs Act, the Small Business Jobs Act, which puts $10 billion into expanding access to capital, especially for small businesses emerging from the pandemic, building opportunity, and creating high-quality jobs in communities that need them the most, which definitely the city of Wilmington, Dover, Georgetown, areas like that truly needs it. So reach out, and if you need help filling out the paperwork, if you are a small business owner, we have a small business administration here. We also have a federal one that you can reach out to. Carve out some time in your day, an hour or two, to sit down with them, talk through the process so that you can be able to get the money. One of the things that always happens is we don't know about the money until after it's already been spent. So this money is now being put in there, and the portal should be opening up in the beginning of December. So please be ready, start preparing yourself. You can make the calls now so that you're prepared for when that portal does open.
Excellent, excellent. I hope you all take heed to that, especially to a lot of our minority small businesses that are here in the state of Delaware, especially the city of Wilmington.
I know a lot of them struggled under the pandemic.
Yes.
And still struggling as we're starting to work our way back. Next, I wanted to talk about, it was announced that state lawmakers in the state Senate, in regards to the state auditor and what's going on with her indictment, they have hired a former Supreme Court justice as a special kind of counsel and guidance on what the Constitution truly states in regards to power to remove an elected official or hold hearings of impeachment or whatever step that they may go with that. So this is still going towards them wanting to hold people accountable for their actions. And this judge, he served on the committee for 30 years. He served on our Delaware Supreme Court for 30 years, our longest serving Supreme Court justice ever. So the findings is due January 11th, 2022. And from that, he'll be able to report back on what steps the state Senate can take. So they won't probably come back into a special session to deal with this. They'll go through the holidays and everything. And then the trial isn't supposed to start until April, May for the actual case.
Okay, very good.
So in the last part, we talked about it last week. Probably at the time of this recording, there's been no verdicts in either one of these cases. It's a high likelihood that before this show is aired, there may be a verdict, at least in the Kyle Rittenhouse case. The defense rested their case on Monday, and you see, as he's leaving the courtroom, he smirks.
Matter of fact, let's look at that real fast.
No one is saying that Mr. Rosenbaum should have chased Mr. Rittenhouse. No one is saying that Mr. Rittenhouse did not have a right to defend himself. This case is about the right to use deadly force. hit him, kick him, knee him, anything else. And Mr. Rosenbaum and Mr. Rittenhouse are alive.
In total, Rittenhouse faced 6 charges until the misdemeanor of a minor in possession of a weapon was dismissed early in the day over the gun not being long enough under Wisconsin statutes to be considered illegal in the hands of a minor. But Rittenhouse still faces 5 felony charges, all of which he pleaded not guilty to. The most serious comes from the shooting and killing of Anthony Huber, the second of 2 people killed that night. Rittenhouse faces first-degree intentional homicide, but the lesser offenses of second-degree intentional homicide or first-degree reckless homicide could also be considered. Those offenses could be considered if the jury is not satisfied of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt on the original charge. In regards to the shooting of Gage Grosskreutz, who survived after being shot, Rittenhouse is charged with attempted first-degree intentional homicide with the use of a dangerous weapon. The judge said the jury could consider the lesser offenses of attempted second-degree intentional homicide and first-degree recklessly endangering safety. On top of those 2 charges, he also faces 2 counts of recklessly endangering safety tied to the shootings either at or near 2 people who were not killed, and first-degree reckless homicide for the killing of Joseph Rosenbaum. The jurors now get to decide the fate of Kyle Rittenhouse over a year after he killed 2 people and wounded a 3rd.
Members of the jury, the time has now come when the great burden of reaching a just, fair, and conscientious decision in this case will be placed wholly with you jurors.
Omar Jimenez, CNN, Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's really interesting. He's like, okay, y'all finish your case. We're going to do what we're going to do.
I think, it has shown throughout this case that he has had the system on his side.
Yeah.
The fact that the judge threw out a charge of a minor having a firearm, which is illegal, it's just plain blank illegal. He threw that out, which means he will no longer be charged for that. And they're trying to give him every opportunity to get off in this case.
He acts like it's his grandson.
Yeah.
That's how he's treated.
Yes.
Like, this is my grandbaby, and I want to make sure that he's well taken care of.
So I think, when dealing with that, it's truly sad to watch because we're watching our justice system fail right in front of our eyes.
Right in front of our eyes.
So now, the governor has already called for 500 National Guardsmen to be on standby. They anticipate more protests. And let's remember why they were out there. Protesters came out because Jacob Blake was shot 7 times in the back by a cop, and he lived. And he was able to tell his story. I pray for the safety of everyone. If this does go bad and you do take to the streets, I pray for everyone to be safe. And I think if this does, if he does get off and protests do happen, you're going to have more people thinking that what he did was okay, and they will take to the streets hunting peaceful protesters.
Against COVID-19. Yes, there could be some short-term side effects from the vaccine, but they go away in a day or 2. Those are signs that my body's building protection. It's worth it to avoid serious problems from COVID-19 disease.
Brother Colby, thank you so much. We've had a good show today. We got an opportunity to do several things. Is there anything else you have on your agenda for today?
Yes, this is the last time we will see you before Thanksgiving. Enjoy the time breaking bread with family and friends. If y'all want to send me a plate of mac and cheese, collard greens, turkey, whatever, I will drop my address. No, I'm joking. But enjoy this time being with family and friends, and remember to keep in mind that we are still in a pandemic, so please be safe out there, and have a very happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and I'll end on talking one. We look forward to seeing our colleague, Brother Jay Street, who will be back next week. But I want to also share, I had an opportunity this week to get my daughter's first shot of the COVID-19 vaccination. She took the the Pfizer, excuse me. She took the Pfizer, and I went to record it, but I didn't take any of my crew with me, so I messed up. I thought I was recording, but I took a picture. But it wasn't a picture when she got the needle. So she got to go back in 3 weeks in order to get her second shot. I will have a crew with me. And she said to me, Daddy, why are you doing this? I said, because your father is a public person, and we want to be role models for other young children to get the vaccine. I hope and trust that you will take your children. It is safe. And at this point, I saw my daughter taking pictures in her school, and she was taking pictures, and her mask was under her face, and she was smiling and doing all of her profiling. And that's when I was angered with her, and I had a conversation with her. But then it also pushed me to say it's time to get the vaccination so that she can have an extra shield of protection. So I hope and trust that you will go ahead. It is now open for children 5 through 11. Matter of fact, you can get the vaccine if you're from age 5 up through your whole life age. You can now get the vaccination. What I did was I didn't want to take my child to a CVS. I took my child to her pediatrician, and she gave the shot to her, and I was very grateful. Did not hurt her. She was very excited that she was able to be now vaccinated. So I hope you will take your children and you will make sure they get vaccinated, because we're in schools and you never know who has what. You don't want your child to have that disease in their bodies, because that can cause other kind of effects by having COVID-19. Thank you so very much for the time we shared. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
God bless you.
Take care, y'all.